Hello crafty friends, my name's Alicia, but you can call me Crafty Al. And in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to put together the 8 fun fold cards following the October 2025 SheetLoad of Cards. This video is chock full of tips to put these together, so I hope you'll stick around to find out more. Welcome, or perhaps welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you're here today. Yesterday, I debuted the brand new SheetLoad of Cards, October 2025. Today, I'm going to show you how to assemble these 8 fun fold cards. If you don't yet have the printable, check out the description box below for a link to the debut video, and I tell you there how you can download this for free as long as you're a subscriber to my channel. In yesterday's video, I let you know there were some quirks to putting these cards together, and to help you get yours correct the first time, I did have some special instructions here on the printable, and in today's video, I'm going to tell you all about those and demonstrate them. Also today, my creative team is going to be joining me in sharing their first sets. I know you're not going to want to miss their videos to see their takes on the latest printable. To see what they've created, you can click on the playlist linked in the description box below, and I also have it as an end card at the very end of the video. I can't wait to see what they created, and I bet that you can't either. As always, let's go watch their videos and leave them some love in the comments. When I get into the process, I will tell you about all of the products and tools that I'm using, but as always, if I ever leave you with any questions, feel free to leave those in that comment section below, and I'll get back to you just as soon as I can. Let's get crafty! I'm going to get started by showing you how to cut your 2 pattern papers, and I'll start by cutting 2 rows that are 5 1/4 inches tall, and then cutting each of those down to 4 piece A's and 2 piece B's. Now if your pattern paper does have a direction, keep that in mind before you make the first cut, which for me, I'm going to do those 2 rows, so I slice 2 pieces that are 5 1/4 inches. I set my scrap pieces to the side, and later I'll show you how I use those. Now I'm going to bring back in those 2 5 1/4 inch tall pieces, and I'm going to cut 4 pieces that are 1 3/4 inches wide and 2 pieces that are 2 inches wide. Now remember, you don't need to write down any of these dimensions or instructions. You can check out yesterday's debut video to find out how to download the free printable. For my first set this month, I am going with a fall or an autumn theme, but I also think this would be a fun sketch to get a jump start on your holiday cards and make them a little unique. Let me know down in that comment section below what theme you're going to go with. While I work on cutting the second piece of pattern paper in that same exact way, I wanted to take a minute to recognize some special channel members. In the month of September, I had some members earn their 1-year membership badge. So I would like to say congratulations and thank you to the members whose names are scrolling up on screen now. Thank you all so very much for your continued support. If you're not yet a channel member and you would like to find out more about the perks of being one, you can click on the Subscribe Plus button below this video or check out the link in the description box below. Membership starts as low as $1.99 a month, and with that, you get access to probably the most favorite perk, and that is the visual archive. It is a one-stop shop with thumbnails and direct links to all SheetLoad of Cards editions, and right now that is almost 75. Now let's work on the card bases. You'll need 4 sheets of a coordinating color cardstock, and we're going to cut those down to slightly smaller than a regular card base and then do some scoring. For my cards, I chose Oat Milk cardstock from Tailored Expressions. I thought this was a nice neutral color for my pattern papers, and the first thing I'm going to do is cut these to 8 1/4 inches wide. Once that cut is made, I rotate the cardstock and cut it in half to 5.5 inches tall. Now these are not your standard fold in half card bases. Instead, we'll be doing some special scoring and folding for a fun fold. I'm not going to be scoring and folding just yet. Instead, I'm going to finish cutting down these pieces of oat milk cardstock, and then a little later on in the video, I'm going to slow this way down and give you some great tips to make sure you get your card bases just right. Next up, you'll want one piece of cardstock for CS1, which the printable shows having 8 3-inch circles. Now you can definitely switch this up for your focal point, and while you could technically get this from one sheet of cardstock, you could also use scraps. For myself, I actually set those circles up in silhouette so I could be sure that I only needed that one piece of cardstock. The printable calls for 2 pieces of cardstock for CS2, which will go on the back of your cards for the personal message. I did put it in the special instructions, but you will probably want to hold off on cutting this until you have scored and folded your card bases. And speaking of scoring and folding, those will be the next steps. What you're going to do is take each of your card base pieces and score in from either end at 2 inches and 3 inches. For myself, I'm using a mini Scor-Buddy, so I got my piece put in the upper left corner. I did the 2-inch score, the 3-inch score, and then I rotated it around 180 degrees and did those last 2. While I am using a designated scoring tool for mine, you might have a trimmer with a scoring blade, or maybe you don't have a scoring tool at all, and later I will show you how you can make this sketch work for you. So for now, I'm going to leave that 8th card base to the side without any scoring. Alright, I'm going to kind of stop the process here and just explain to you some things that you might run into and ways that I found to make putting these together a little easier. So originally, I just designed this on my computer and all the math worked out, but Tracy, one of the creative team members, reached out when she had made her first set and she told me she was having some issues. So I ran right down here to my craft room, I cut and scored a card base, and I ran into those same issues. Originally, I was going to have you score from left to right at 2 inches, 3 inches, 5.5, and 6.5 inches. And in theory, that should have worked. But what Tracy found, and then what I found, is when you folded it, your left side had more of the back sticking out than the right. So somehow, just with making the scores and the folding, that wasn't going to work. So after that happened, and I didn't want to just, scrap the whole sheet load, I wanted to see if I scored in from the ends, if that would work better. So that is what I did on this one. I scored just like I showed you, 2 inches, 3 inches, then rotated it and scored it 2 inches and 3 inches. After it was folded, it was great. Both of these sides were equal, but this card base ended up only being 4 1/8 inches wide. Again, my math, it should have been 4 1/4, which is exactly, an A2 size card. So I decided I would try one other thing. And when I folded this one, I didn't really pay attention to, if I had the indentation part of the score up or down. So what I did is I made another one that same exact way. But then I made sure when I folded this first one, or folded the middle, that the bump of the embossing, or the bump of the score line, was facing up to me, and then I folded it back. And then I folded the wings in. And this one, you guys, is almost exactly the 4 1/4 by 5.5. So that is why on the special instructions, I have the please note, and I say that you might want to wait to cut CS2 until you've made your card bases. No matter if yours end up being 4 1/8 or 4 1/4 inches wide, either one will work. But if you want your personal message piece on the back to have an even border, you'll want to wait to cut those until you have made your card bases and can measure them. So if your card is 4 1/8 inches wide, you will cut your CS2 to 3 7/8 inches wide. If it's your standard 4 1/4, then it will be 4 inches wide for CS2. I know that that can be confusing and that was a lot of talking, but I think once you make one of these and figure out the size, that you'll be all ready to go for the remaining 7 cards. Now, if you do run into any questions, as always, you can leave them in the comment section below or down at the bottom of the description box. There is my email address. Feel free to reach out and we'll see if we can get this all worked out. And you know, as we always say, this is a craft. It doesn't have to be perfect. So just go with the flow. I know Tracy herself, she ended up scoring hers just slightly different and it ended up working. Now let's go ahead and get my card bases done. Right now, the score lines on my cards are debossed, or they're going into the cardstock. So what I did is I flipped over the entire stack, took away the one I had not yet scored, and now I am going to fold so that the bump of that score line is on the outside of the fold right now. I do use my bone folder to give that a nice crisp or a nice crease, and then I'm going to fold the back section on that side toward the front. Once those 2 folds are done, I'm going to rotate the card base and do the same folds on the other side. Now I like to have my mini Scor-Buddy, so I have that ledge to line up the sides of the cardstock together. And while this one is a little bit wonky, I need to do some more creasing of that fold. It will stand up. I did check here to make sure those back wings are the same width, and they are, but I do want to go ahead and measure this so I know how big the piece needs to be for my personal message. This card and the remaining ones did end up being 4 1/4 inches wide, so I will go with what the printable shows and cut my pieces to 4 by 5 1/4. I finished scoring and folding all of these off camera. Once those were all done, I brought back in my pattern papers, and for the first card, I chose the plaid paper for piece B and the leaf paper for my 2 piece A's. Now you'll want to kind of flatten your card base back out, and the plaid will go in the center and the leaf paper will go on those outer 2 scored areas. The first thing I'm going to do is add adhesive to the back to the plaid paper, and that gets centered in that center section. Then I'm going to do the same thing with my wing pieces with pattern paper A, and again just get those nice and centered. I would say on these to focus on the outside edges, that your margin between the pattern paper and the score line might be a little bit different, but that is covered up when they are folded. Now let me show you what I'm going to do with that 8th card base, the one that I did not put any score lines on, in case you don't have a scoring tool. For this, you're still going to choose those 3 pieces of pattern paper. For this one, I just reversed the patterns, and I'm going to start by adding the pattern paper piece A's to the outside or to the left and right edges first. You'll want to try to get nice even 1/8 inch borders on those edges. Then you're going to take your pattern paper piece B, and I like to use the grid line on my cutting mat on my work surface, and you'll want to center that between those outside pieces. Now you could put this one down first, but I think having the visual of those outside pattern papers helps you a little bit more with centering. Now comes the slightly tricky part. What I do is eyeball 1/8 of an inch away from the outside pattern papers, make a little crease with my fingernail, and then fold that back on itself, doing the best to align the cardstock edges. I did the same thing on the other side, and you will have to fold these back toward the front for the final card. And to do the center section, it's just about the same thing. You'll eyeball that 1/8 of an inch, Start with a crease and then fold each of the sides. Now, while this is not perfect, if you don't have a scoring tool, it will get the job done. I do suggest, if you have a bone folder, to go ahead and get that out so you can get some nice crisp folds. Here are my first two card bases together. Again, you can't really tell much of a difference. I would like to know though, are you going to use a scoring tool or do these by hand? Let me know down in that comment section below. While I finish adding those pattern papers, I do want to encourage you, if you are a new card maker, that some type of scoring tool is a pretty good investment. I do have an affiliate link to the mini Scor-Buddy that I use in the description box below if you want to check that out. Now that our card bases are done, we can finally cut the CS2 pieces for the personal message. For this, you'll need 2 pieces of cardstock that you cut into a total of 8 4 by 5 1/4 inch pieces. For mine, I am using just a lightweight white cardstock because with all of the folds, the card is already kind of heavy and thick. Now, before you go and put these on the back of your card bases, you will want to check out those special instructions again. Only adhere this to one of those back flaps, otherwise your card won't flatten out to go in the envelope or stand up correctly. I'm going to show you a couple different ways you can add your personal message piece. On this first card, I added the adhesive right to the back flap of that card base. I did try to keep it in from the edge a little bit, so there was no adhesive showing around the edges of the white cardstock. On the second one, I'm going to add the adhesive to the back of the personal message piece. On this, I did my best to eyeball halfway across the cardstock, and if I would have found that any of that adhesive was showing in that center part, I would have just wiped that away so the card doesn't accidentally get glued together. Let me know which way you think you'll do down in that comment section below. I added the rest of those off camera, and the last thing the cards need is a focal point. For mine, I chose the All for Autumn sentiment stamp set from Tailored Expressions, and the stamp I chose reads, "Autumn is a second spring when every leaf is a flower." To stamp these, I'm using Sour Gummy ink, which goes with the blue stripe on that plaid paper, and I just cut down some scraps of Oat Milk cardstock to stamp onto. I am just going to set this stamp up one time and make sure it fits on that rectangle. And now once that's done, I can just replace it with the next piece of cardstock and keep stamping until I have 8 sentiments. Just like with the scoring tool earlier, if you are new to card making, a stamp positioner like a MISTI or another brand for me is a must-have. Once those were all stamped, I used a coordinating die to cut them down. Now at this point, I could just put those right onto the card bases, but I did want to help them stand out a little more from the background, so I brought in those oat milk circles that I cut down earlier. Now I thought that was a little too plain, just the flat cardstock on flat cardstock, so I brought in this beautiful leaf embossing folder and added embossing to those circles, and you guys, look at that. Is that not the cutest? To help the sentiment stand out a little more from the embossed background, I did add some foam tape to the back of each one, and now I'm going to place the sentiments in the center of those circles. When you go to add your focal points to your card bases, this is one place where you can definitely make these cards your own. You can move the sentiment up, down, all around, whatever looks best to you. I am going to go ahead and stick with putting it toward the top like the sketch shows, and I kind of figured out where the adhesive would need to go on the back of the circle so that I didn't add too much and glue my card flat. And here's a look at that first one completed. I did this same thing with the remaining 7 card bases, and now it's time for me to show you how I used up the scrap paper. Here is what I started with, and after some cutting and punching, this is what I had left over. On the back of each card, I added a pattern paper strip and a partial punch circle. And here are some more close-ups of the finished cards. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I put together my first set of cards using the October 2025 sheet load and got a few tips along the way. If you did, as always, a thumbs up is appreciated. Now don't forget to go see what everyone else created by using the playlist link in the description box below or the playlist end card here in just a minute. Until my next video, I hope you're all having a crafty day. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch all the way to the end of the video. I hope now you'll consider clicking on one of the videos or playlists I have linked above. And if you are interested in any of the products or tools I used in today's video, I do have some links in the description box below.